Welcome to an all-new Monday edition of Second City Sports. Real live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena and Sid, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, too, you can catch our other 5 live shows throughout the week. If you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them and catch them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's find Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you could do so by subscribing to War on Anger. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Type this in your search engine boxes on those podcast platforms. You ready? WARR on Anchor. One more again, as you young folks would say. WARR on Anchor on those podcast platforms. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any very definite opinions about any of our topics we're going to discuss on our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid or act ignorant, as you young folks would say, I've given Lakeena full boat to give you fools the beer and beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love when you say that. And speaking of giving the opponents the boot, Lakeena, let's kick off this Monday edition of Second City Sports by discussing the NBA Finals, the 2022 edition. The Golden State Warriors bounced back as most people expected with a big Game 2 win over the Boston Celtics, 107-88, tying their best-of-7 series at 1 game apiece. Jason Tatum bounced back with a big game for the C's with 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Steph Curry did not have the world's greatest game, unlike in Game 1, but he still tallied 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists for the Golden State Warriors. It was the 35-14 outburst for the Warriors to start the third quarter that made the difference for the Warriors in their home court in Game 2. Lakeena, before we break this game down from last night, what were your initial thoughts about the Warriors Game 2? We talked about this before we started recording. No, of course, now we're broadcasting live on there, but we kind of called it on Friday, Lakeena, that we knew that the Warriors were going to come out with a better performance in Game 2. They were in the first half, but the third quarter, like I just mentioned, was the difference in the game. In Game 1, they had a meltdown in the fourth quarter, but it didn't happen this time last night.
No, it didn't. And we all okay, like you said right before we started recording, most logical basketball fans kind of called this and say, hey, you know what? Look, this Warriors team is too good. They got too much experience with their core to kind of, I'm sure they would love to have had, Game 1 back on Thursday. But, look, we figured that this was going to happen, especially, Steph did he have his best game? No, he didn't. He hit his shots. Steph was Steph in some form. He had 29 points, which is actually, some would say that is a sort of a Steph-like performance. I think most people probably would take that. But look, he had contributions from other guys. Jordan Poole had his best game the last couple of games. He had 17 off the bench. Klay Thompson, again, didn't have his best game, but he hit some big shots too, especially to kick out that run in the third quarter. Kelvin Looney had 12 points. Andrew Wiggins had 11. So, like I said, it was definitely a team effort, which definitely helped the Warriors in this sense from last night. And look, on the flip side for the Celtics, Jason Tatum again, had 28 points. Jaylen Brown had 17, but that was basically it for the Celtics. Al Horford went back to being the Al Horford, unfortunately, that we know. Only 2 points. Robert Williams, you could kind of tell he's still a little bit gimpy from that injury. He only had 2. Marcus Smart struggled from the field. He was 0 for 3 from 3. So it was definitely one of those games where you're kind of like, the Warriors were able to take advantage of the fact that the Celtics, they didn't have that hot shooting, and we figured that was going to be the case. So
And speaking of the Boston Celtics, they were once again in a tight first half with the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors were turning the ball over early, but it was a hot shooting from the Celtics from the 3 point range, in particular Jason Tatum, that kept them in the first half. What made the difference, besides that third quarter one for the Warriors, is that the Boston Celtics stars like Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum all got in foul trouble within the first half. It totally changed everything what the Celtics wanted to do. Now they did play their bench a little bit more, in particular Grant Williams, and we'll get into what he did with Draymond Green in just a second. But you didn't get much contributions off their bench outside of Derek White, who chipped in with 12 points. But you could tell, unlike Thursday when the Celtics got down, you felt like they weren't out of it, and you saw what happened at the fourth quarter. But what happened last night, with their stars being in foul trouble, it was a tall tale sign of night and day between games 1 and 2 for the C's.
Yeah, I think that was definitely sort of the thing. I mean, you didn't look, we weren't, that just didn't happen. You thought that maybe the Celtics will kind of get back into that mode that we saw in, game one, where they're going to go, get a run together and just, be right there to kind of probably still game two again. I mean, Tatum, became the third Celtics player in their franchise history, have 500 points, 100 rebounds, 100 assists in a single postseason, joining, guys like Larry Bird, who did it 3 times, Paul Pierce. So that's pretty good company. He's only the second youngest to do it too, after LeBron. But after that, I mean, the Warriors outscored it 35-14 in the third. That actually breaks the record that was set
Mm-hmm.
against them. So in a quarter in finals history. So, and Boston had more turnovers than they did field goals in the third.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. So the Warriors actually kind of stepped up their defense. So it's definitely one of those things where we're seeing that maybe there might be a pattern here, that fluky things might happen. Somebody might go into a run. Somebody might miss a shot, or you got an unsung hero and such. So we saw that in game one, with Derek White being kind of like the unsung hero for the Celtics, 7-up when Tatum didn't have his best shooting night. In this case, with last night, you had Steph didn't have his best shooting, but the Warriors as a team really didn't have a really great shooting night as a whole, but the Celtics did a lot worse, and the Warriors were able to take advantage of that.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here, live in 11 color on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you, reviewing game 2 of last night's NBA Finals between the Warriors and the Celtics. The Warriors beat the Celtics 107-88 to tie that best-of-7 series at one game apiece. Game 3 will be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC. The games 3 and 4 will be in Boston. Game 3 will be on Wednesday, and game 4 rather will be on Friday night. And here comes one of our old guys back on the show. Nice to see you again, Mr. Antoine Showtime Ward. He's at Warriors and 5. Clay Wong having 1-8 shooting night from 3. Let's hope you're right, Antoine. I actually had the Warriors in 6, so I'm kind of on track there as far as my pick is concerned. So we'll see what happens with the next 2 games being in Boston. We'll get into that more coming up in a couple minutes. But Lakeena, you brought up the Warriors defense. It was a play with Jaylen Brown and Draymond Green toward the end of that first half. Remember, Draymond Green already had a technical foul. That play was reviewed between Green and Brown, and there was no double technicals were called. Jeffrey Gundy, I thought, brought up a great point last night on the Tally Guys. He said if it was a regular season game, both these players would have been called for double technicals, and it would have been the end of that. But with Draymond Green only having one technical foul, that definitely factored into the decisions of the referees, as they had to go at the scores table to look at it on replay. And of course, they decided that it was just both of those guys would just be called for common fouls and nothing further. But I thought Draymond should have been kicked out of the game. You could tell that Draymond Green was starting to stir things up, and to a certain extent, it worked. Now, the Boston didn't really back down from him, but Draymond Green has a reputation with the referees, and he kind of totes that line at times, but he was definitely playing with an edge, especially in that first half last night.
He kind of felt that way, and I think you figured that he was going to kind of come back with that little extra edge. And look, as great as Jeremiah is, he can be a pain to buffer other teams for the opponents at times. And you saw that happen last night. I mean, I kind of felt that I don't know if Draymond should have been kicked out. I just think, look, in the finals, look, weird things happen, and you kind of have to figure out that some things might slide with, unless Draymond punched somebody, he wasn't gonna get kicked out. I know some Celtics fans were
Mhm.
very angry about that he wasn't tossed. But look again, unless it was something like really egregious, like I said before, him punching somebody and such, that
Mhm.
wasn't going to happen. So in this case, I think look, get the double technical, they did the right thing, and there really wasn't much to do after that. Now again, I think the Celtics didn't back down, but I think the problem was that they didn't back it up either. They didn't
Yeah.
look, they didn't have the best shooting light. The best that they would have done to kind of shut Draymond up and the Warriors was to kind of shoot lights out like they did in Game 1. They didn't, and you saw what happened. So look, this isn't gonna look. I know there were some Boston fans that were saying that the Warriors were gonna sweep the Warriors. I don't know where like they haven't been watching basketball. I guess they're letting their homerness to kind of get the best of them. But
Drinking that green beer.
right, exactly. Oh, too much of that green beer, I think. But look, this is gonna go 7. We've said this before. They're gonna split in Boston. We talked about right before we started recording. So they're gonna split in Boston. I feel like, and look, I think no one's gonna blow out some. We're gonna have competitive games, hopefully. And look, we'll see what happens. I feel like this is sort of one of those. This could be a classic finals. I feel like.
Let's go back to last night's Game 2 performances by the unsung heroes. So let's start with the Warriors. Gary Payton II. He was active for Game 1, but Steve Kerr decided not to play him. Gary Payton II played 25 minutes last night, had a plus 15 rating, had 7 points, 3 rebounds, and three assists. Talk about his impact, because the crowd, which I thought was very classy, gave him a standing ovation when he entered the game midway through the second quarter. And you could tell that Gary Payton II, we talked about it through the second half of the season early in the playoffs before he got hurt in Game 2 against Memphis. Talk about Gary Payton II's impact on this team. It was definitely felt last night.
It really was, and I don't want to say this is like a Willis Reed from Game 7 back in 71. Not it wasn't like that, but you
Hmm.
kind of felt that there was a little bit more spirit, kind of spiritual, kind of gave him that little oomph. And look, he was
Hmm.
perfect. He was perfect. He 3 for 3 from the field. He hit his only 3-point attempt, so that definitely helped in that sense. But it kind of felt that there was definitely something different. He gives that kind of extra energy and extra option in scoring. He was actually pretty he actually had a couple of key assists too. So he was definitely a guy that was definitely missed. Not that they really needed him, but I guess
Yeah.
he's kind of like gives them that extra sort of everything, that extra scorer, that extra kind of assist guy. And we saw that last night. You can kind of tell that there was definitely something different once he got onto the floor. He actually has that impact.
Yeah. And that's what the Warriors need going forward. Now, the other impact player I wanted to talk about, he actually had a hot start to the playoffs, but cooled off, and he struggled doing, I believe, doing too much in Game 1. But he had a very good Game 2 last night, and that's Jordan Poole. He was a +7. He had 17 points, including 5 of 9 from 3-point range. And he had a dagger of a half-court 3-point shot towards the
Mm-hmm.
end of that third quarter, which put the Celtics to bed. Jordan Poole really turned it around from Game 1 on Thursday.
Yeah, it was definitely like almost like 30 years to the day right after the Jordan shrug game, if you will. You were waiting for the shrug,
Yeah.
sort of like you just kind of gave him that look. But yeah, I mean, he was definitely like, finally got to that point where like, okay, this is the Jordan Poole that we've seen all these playoffs. So, he made big shots. He had, some contested, steals. He made some contested threes. So he was definitely kind of like that, not really unsung hero. He's
Mhm.
been kind of an unsung hero these entire playoffs because again, Clay didn't have his best start. Yeah, I get what Twan's saying that he's not going to be 1 for 8 from the 3-point range. No, he won't. But again, he's been kind of struggling. You can kind of tell he's still. You wonder that is it sort of the
Mhm.
the wear and tear starting to bother him a little bit. Kind of like he hasn't played in almost 2 years. But again, look, these are the kind of guys that you want stepping up. And again, those were kind of the guys that kind of step up. Yeah, Billy Bajika had 6 key points too. So
Mhm.
I think I think their role players definitely stepped up for the Warriors. Now for Boston, like I said earlier, there was no one else that kind of stepped up other than the two main guys, Tatum and Brown. And if you're trying to go, oh yeah, Derek White got 12 off the bench, but it
Mhm.
wasn't up. But he needed help from the other bench guys. So I don't know if you're Boston, we get back at TD Garden, and I'm sure that place is going to be rocking. You want to get to the point where, look, this thing's going to go 7. I'm already going to put it out there right now. I've been saying it for I say like all like for the last 10 minutes. But yeah, no one's gonna run away from this series. I think it's gonna be a game of chess where you got okay, Boston got the first move, stealing the game, in the Bay Area. Warriors came right back, and the Celtics didn't have their best shooting day. So let's see what happens when we get there. Because this is not a 2-3-2. This is a 2-2, a 1-1 and 1. So it's all going to depend
Exactly.
on who's going to kind of get that sort of steal that that advantage, if you will, for that pivotal game 3 on Wednesday.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you, discussing the NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. Before we move on to our mini preview of Game 3, Lakeena, I want to focus in on Andrew Wiggins. I thought Mark Jones and Jeff Van Gundy and the crew brought up a great point about Mr. Wiggins last night. He was very good defensively. He was a plus 19. He had 11 points and a total of 6 rebounds, and he also had a steal in there as well. Andrew Wiggins really stuck on to Jason Tatum, especially in that second quarter going into the second half. I know he had hit a couple of shots early from three-point range to get the Warriors going offensively, but he was challenged. The story came out that he was challenged by soon-to-be new Sacramento Kings head coach Mike Brown, who's currently a Warriors assistant, that Andrew Wiggins could be a better defender. He's not going to be a shutdown defender, but he could be a better defender. He's taking that challenge on all year. We didn't see it in Game 1, but we saw glimpses of it in Game 2 last night.
Yes, we did, and I think, look, that's going to be the key. I think if guys can kind of just sort of get into that top of the key and sort of make that interior defense, make so the Celtics force 3-pointers and force taking bad shots. I think it just like people underestimate how good the Warriors defense is. So I wonder, like, is that going to be the key as we get into further and further into the series? Because it's definitely going to be, like I said, it's definitely a cat and mouse. So you wonder, like, who's going to be the player? Who's going to be that unsung player? Will it be a top player that kind of gives his team the advantage as we get into further to the series? Because it's not going to be any blowouts. It's not going to be like no one's going to blow the doors off of somebody. So I feel like that's going to be the key here for me. What about you?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what were your keys to Game 3 as we preview Game 3 for Wednesday night? That's at 8 o'clock p.m. from Boston on ABC. The key for me for Boston are your top 3 stars better not get in foul trouble. They're going to get that extra edge because they're at home now for Games 3 and 4. I think they need to get the ball inside just a little bit more to Al Horford. I know he only had 2 points last night. I remember I asked Ricky O'Donnell from SB Nation on Friday, is this the best we're going to see of Al Horford? He said we still have some left in the tank. Now, I agreed that Al Horford is not going to shoot 6 or 8 from three-point range again. I agree with you on. I agree with Ricky and yours and yourself on that, Lakeena, from our show on Friday. But Al Horford, they need to get him involved a little bit more. When that happens, it's going to make their shooters that much more dangerous. Now, I don't expect Al Horford to totally turn back the clock, but if he becomes a bit more of a threat offensively from the paint, that's going to open it up for Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Derek White coming off the bench. It's going to open the game up more for them, just a little bit more. Now, for the Warriors, how are you going to defend Jason Tatum? We all knew that he was going to have a big game last night, which he did with 28 points. But how are you going to defend him? And on the flip side, can you get off Klay Thompson, especially early in the game? You saw a glimpse of that in the third quarter, but he couldn't sustain it. Can you use that same game plan you did last night to start off the second half? Can you do that to start off the third quarter? Because it wasn't just Klay Thompson, it was Steph Curry, and it was some of the other guys that was there. The Warriors missed a lot of easy layups, in particular in that first half.
They really did, and you wonder, like, is this sort of history repeating itself from Game 1? Luckily, that wasn't the case. I mean, Boston was cold, so they were able to kind of take advantage of that and didn't come back to bite them in the butt. Now, that's for me, I think the keys are going to be like you said, guys like Robert Williams, guys like Grant Williams, guys like Horford, Marcus Smart. You can't be scoring, can't be going over from 3 and scored only 2 points. That's not going to cut it, especially if you're trying to win. You want to win it all. So the guys going to have to step up too. You got to have Luke Cornett, maybe kind of the unsung hero. Daniel Tice, who I wish he was still here with the Bulls. That's a whole other conversation. Peyton Pritchard. I mean,
he actually did well defensively last night. I know Mark Jackson gave him some love on the broadcast.
Yeah, but he has to step up offensively as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, the Boston's guys just need to step up in general, outside of Brown and Tatum. That's basically all you can, that's all you can say about that. Now, as far as the Warriors, you hope that maybe Klay Thompson maybe being away from home, maybe that'll help him with his shooting. Who knows? Looney, step it up a little bit more. Hopefully Draymond can, be that, that agitator, if you will, maybe for a little bit, that would help as well. Hopefully others, Gary Payton II, hopefully as he gets more and more back into a rhythm, he can kind of start becoming like that, facilitator that we saw early in the playoffs before he got hurt. So I think the key for me is definitely going to be who among the role players are going to step up.
Once again, Game 3 between the Warriors and the Celtics will take place from Boston Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That game can be seen on ABC. Straight ahead, Lakeena, we had to get into baseball both locally and nationally. The White Sox, are they finally starting to turn it around? The Cubs, they showed up against St. Louis, but are they good as advertised? And yours truly watched one of the best games he's seen in 2022. We'll get into that and a whole lot more as you're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG, you could do so at SidK80. Once again, at SidK80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 90 minutes left of this is Strength Against. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us during any of our topics on today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's dive into some baseball for this segment. The Chicago White Sox are now 2 games under 500 for the season at 25-27. After finishing up the 6-game road trip with back-to-back wins over the Tampa Bay Rays by the scores of 3-2 from Saturday and from 6-5 from yesterday. Lakeena, before we dive in a little bit further, here's a couple of observations that I observed from this series against the Tampa Bay Rays. Jake Burger, whatever you do, TLR, a.k.a. Tony La Russa, for those of you scoring at home, keep Jake Burger in the lineup. Number 2, keep Andrew Vaughn in the lineup as well, please. Can we do that? because both of them came up huge in yesterday's victory. Jake Berger with the game-winning home run in the 8th inning on Saturday. He had 2 doubles yesterday, along with Andrew Vaughn, who also had 2 doubles. The pitching was outstanding. Dylan Cease, who should have qualified for the win on Saturday, he pitched very good, but that second inning when Tampa Bay piled on with the 40-pitch inning for him, that kind of did him in. Yesterday, Lucas Giolito was given a 6-0 lead. He didn't pitch his best, but he almost single-handedly led Tampa Bay back in the game. But the bullpen for the White Sox has been outstanding these last couple of games as well. Liam Hendricks, back-to-back 1, 2, 3 ninth innings. Yay!
Well, they were able to take advantage of some of the deficiencies that have kind of handcuffed the race so far this year, leaving runners in scoring position. They're actually just as bad as the White Sox have been with guys on base. So they were able to take advantage of that. And look, Liam Hendricks, I mean, that was definitely something that he really needed. I saw some of the last part of the yesterday's game, and I think, look, if you're a White Sox fan, you should be feeling pretty good. You're able to take 2 out of 3 against one of the top teams in the American League, so you can definitely take that and build on that. And you know what? I feel like, look, could this be the start of a run for the Sox? I mean, it's kind of hard to say at this point, because you thought that maybe a couple of weeks ago you thought that they was going to get a rhythm going. That turned out not be the case. So I kind of want to just see, okay, look, you won 2 out of 3 from that a nice bounce back from that. Getting swept by the Blue Jays, but also too at the same time you got to keep it up, because you not only have the Twins, who they've kind of been up and down too, but you were able to gain much, and neither have you had with the Guardians. So that's kind of been the issue. Now you gotta go. Now you host a Dodgers team that's not in a very good mood. I think we'll get to them in a second, but you kind of have to sort of just try to kind of acquiesce, if you will, and hopefully you can kind of get a rhythm going and such. But like I said, they have a pretty tough schedule. You got the Dodgers coming up starting tomorrow night. TBS, it'll be, the game 1 of that series will be on TBS at 7:10 Chicago time at G-Rate Field. Another little note there. That's started their game of the week, if you will, that TBS has been going to be doing this season. A little note there. Texas got some good players. I mean, they got a nice young talent. I mean, they're not going to set the AL West on fire, but they've got some good talent there. You got Detroit. Detroit's always been it's always an adventure.
Yeah.
In Detroit, especially when we
to
saw
say the least.
Early this season, definitely. And also you got, after that too, you got 3 against Houston, and then you host Toronto after that. So you got a pretty tough schedule if you're the White Sox. So I think I'm gonna wait and see. Because like I said, I thought that maybe last week they were gonna get into a little bit of a run. They haven't done that so far. So I'm in show me mode with the White Sox right now.
And that's a proper way to take that attitude, Lakeena, because we haven't seen outside that 6-2 start to start the year. This team has been below or around 500 ever since. And as Bill Parcells, the Pro Football Hall of Fame head coach, always says, you are what your record says you are, and that's what's happening with the White Sox right now. Jay Berger, as I mentioned, in his last 5 games, he has over 4 hits, 3 doubles, and a home run with 4 RBI, and he's been one of the key figures of this White Sox team, as the White Sox have been struggling with injuries, in particular Tim Anderson. Jose Abreu, his personal 12-game hitting streak ended on Saturday, but he's been swinging a hot stick over the last few weeks or so. So he's starting to get it going. He had that big 3-run home run on Friday, but it came at the right time. But the White Sox still, as you said, especially in that game on Friday, left runners in scoring position. Luis Robert, aka La Pantera, left the bases loaded, striking out. So the White Sox still had, hopefully this is a turnaround, but like you said, Lakeena, they had to put up or shut up. And I think they could give the Dodgers a little bit of trouble. We shall see. I know Michael Kopech will start the game tomorrow. Yours truly will be there sitting in the stands. So I believe Dylan Cease will start the Thursday game. I'm not sure we'll have to check up on that.
Yes.
So,
I got this schedule up. Yep.
Yeah, so on paper, you think they could take at least 2 games. We'll see what happens. The Dodgers are a good team. Like you said, we'll get to what happens to them in just a second. But Jake Berger, Andrew Vaughn, and Jose Abreu have been the 3 hot bats in this White Sox lineup. And hopefully Tony Lewis can keep them in the lineup car, barring injuries, and let them stay there. Let them stay there. I wanted to ask you, Lakeena, about second base and
Mhm.
Johan Makata and Josh Harrison. I don't know if moving
Oh,
Johan Makata
Jesus.
wherever he gets healthy to move him to second base or put Jake Berger there. I don't know if that's going to be the answer. Josh Harrison, kind of as one of the few people I actually like to pick up, but he's been a big disappointment. Do you think he'll be the next one to be DFA'd? For those of you going at home, designated for assignment, which
The
means
first
cut
time
from the
it
team.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of White Sox fans talk about this too. I mean, he hasn't really been, he's done a few things, but he hasn't been sort of like as good as advertised. He's not that veteran presence, but I mean, he could be one of those guys that could, maybe they may just DH him again more, or he might end up being DFA and may just maybe waive him, perhaps have someone else pick him up. I just think he just doesn't fit here. I actually like the sign at first, but then if have you seen him both on fielding and hitting, he hasn't really been too productive offensively. So I'm wondering, like, is he sort of, could he be another one? Could be like Keuchel, who could be up saying bye bye to him too. So I don't know, but yeah, I think when Makata does come back, I think you gotta put him back on second. And well, we know Harrison can play both infield and outfield. He's very versatile. That's probably one of the reasons why Rick Hahn signed him, but he just doesn't fit this particular team. I just don't. It just doesn't fit for me.
Oh, thing I like about him is his intro song. They play Frankie Beverly Mays' song "Before I Let
Mhm.
Go."
Yes. Yes.
That's a tradition of people that look like us, especially around this time of year, hosting your family barbecues and family reunions and things along that line. So,
Mhm.
but we'll see what happens with Mr. Josh Harrison going forward. Lakina, let's turn over to the north side. It was a tremendous series between the Cubs and the Cardinals, the 5-game series from Wrigley Field's friendly confines. The St. Louis Cardinals took the series finale last night in extra innings by the score of 5-3, and they took the Fox Saturday baseball game by the score of my computer
7-4.
is 7-4.
7-4.
Thank you. My computer was freezing up for a minute. 7-4. But the Cardinals take 3 out of 5 from the Cubs. The Cubs, outside of the Friday game, which Marcus Stroman struggled big time, the Cubs actually showed up in this series. But as we talked about, Lakeena, they don't have the talent to compete with the St. Louis's or the Milwaukee's in this NL Central Division. Are they as good as? Are they better as advertised? Maybe at times they are, but we all know that they still have a long way to go.
And the crazy about this is that outside of that Friday game, which Stroman, that was definitely his worst game of the season,
Mm-hmm.
probably his worst as a Cubs so far. They were in every single game. The last two,
Mm-hmm.
of the series win the extras, so they were right there. And of course, fortunately, that's when the lack of talent sort of shows up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they were actually able to put up a fight against St. Louis, especially the last 2 days being on national television, on the Fox Saturday game of the week, also to the Sunday Night Baseball, I think that definitely helps. So shows, but there is a little bit of talent there. Look, Christopher Morel, I think has broken like a record for, I think, like most of his being reaching base, in his first few bats in the major. So I think that helps a little bit. Schwindel had some, has a good showing too. Alfonso Rivas had a couple of good showings in some of those games especially the ones that the Cubs won.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're seeing that sort of like the discrepancy in talent. So, but the fact that they were able to push the Cardinals 2 extra innings in those last 2 games, actually were in 4 out of the 5. Well, those, with the exception of the first game on Thursday that they won, they had to hang on, but they ended up winning that one, of course. Outside the Friday one where Stroman was just pitching batting practice. They were in every single game. So
Yeah.
if you're a Cubs fan, you gotta be feeling pretty good at where you're at right now. But I think, look, you got the talent there. Who knows? I mean, just see where you're at and get near 500. They can just take baby steps.
Yeah, and that's what the Cubs are doing right now, taking baby steps. You mentioned Christopher Morel. He's been the lightning rod for that Cubs offense at the top of the lineup, leading off. Let's talk about Patrick Wisdom and Frank Trudell. Both of those guys were swinging hot sticks again this weekend against the Cardinals. Both of them hitting monster home runs. The question I asked you, Lakeena, before the season started, I'm still asking you now, and Cub fans that are listening and watching us, are both those guys are in it for the long haul? Can you get something for them at the trade deadline or when the season ends? I'm not sure. They're both of them are making their cases right now. I know that both of them are going to coming up on the calendar year are wearing the Cubs uniform. But I still have a question that both of them will be part of the Cubs' future plans. They're looking good right now, but I'm still not sure from an outsider's perspective.
Well, you have to. Well, I think we don't know what Jed Hoyer is thinking right now. Could Schwindel, could Wisdom be? I think could they both be a part of the Cubs' future plans of being rebuilding? Again, you just gotta wait and see. I mean, we really don't know what the plan is right now. So they're 9 games under 500 at this point. So you gotta think, okay, you know what? Maybe let's just see what you got, and then try to build off that. So again, we will have to wait and see. Maybe we won't find out that until the end of the season. We'll see what Jed Hoyer says. He's been pretty quiet. So okay, just gotta do a wait and see mode. I think there really has. I don't think they really know what their core is just yet. So I think you may have just play it by ear, and I think that's probably what Jed Hoyer is gonna do. And I think look, we'll see what he does. I mean, I think the attendance has not been very good over at Wrigley. I mean, there were just as many Cardinals fans that were Cubs fans.
And still some empty seats, but for both
Yes.
Saturday and last night's game, still some empty seats, and it's not good.
Yeah, and that's not a good sign. So I'm sure they're taking it into account too, Jed Hoyer. So you guys just gotta wait and see, and I feel like you just gotta just take baby steps and just hope that maybe if the Cubs do finish right near 500, if they win like 75, 80 games, 70 to 80, I think that's probably a good little range there. We'll have to wait to see what happens.
In the Cubs schedule for this week, they have today off. They'll have a 3-game series at Baltimore starting tomorrow, and they'll have a historic 3-game series at Yankee Stadium against the New York Yankees. So that's the Cubs schedule for this week. You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you. Say that 5 times fast. Sid Lakeena here with you, talking baseball right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's get into what happened around the rest of the league over the weekend. Lakeena, I'll start off with yesterday's exciting game, one of the best I've seen outside of our Chicago team so far for 2022. The Philadelphia Phillies complete a 3-game sweep over the Anaheim Angels by the score of 9-7. Bryce Harper, who's been maligned by some Philly fans during his time in the Phillies uniform, came up big with a big grand slam in the 8th inning, tying the game at 6. And Bryson Stott with a big home run off a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs in the 9th inning yesterday. It was an awesome moment for Philadelphia fans in the team, as the Philadelphia Phillies now 3-0 after firing Joe Girardi.
Yeah, I think Rob Thompson, I think people want to say extend him, the first base coach. He's the interim manager right now. I mean, the irony is that they're now 3-0 since he took over. So, they swept the Angels, but the Angels have not been, they've been kind of flat these last few weeks. I mean,
losers are now 10 in a row.
Mike Trout's been hitless in that spans. I think Shohei Ohtani's had his struggles. I mean, he struggled early on that weekend game where the Phillies just hammered the Angels 10-0. I don't know. I mean, I think they're falling back to earth, but I didn't think they would be falling back to earth this badly. I mean, they're now 8.5 back from Houston, so 11 in a row they've lost now. So I don't know. I mean, it's just you hope that if you're the Angels, you hope you can get it together, but it's just not looking good for you guys at this point.
Let's go to the American League. Lakeena, the Twins, as we mentioned, surprisingly, especially if you're a Sox fan, the Twins take 2 out of 3 at Toronto against the Blue Jays. The New York Yankees, they sweep away the Detroit Tigers. They had a dramatic win thanks to that idiot Josh Donaldson from yesterday. But you mentioned the Bronx Bombers have now won their last 6 games. And the Minnesota Twins, they take 2 out of 3 in Toronto. And the Houston Astros take 2 out of 3 in Kansas City against the Royals.
Well, yeah, look, I think you do what you're supposed to do, right? You win 2 out of 3 against a team that you're clearly better than. So I mean, I think that's what you need. And you wonder, though, I think we're kind of getting to the season. We're in the first week of June now. So you wonder, like, are we starting to see some of these, sort of these teams? Are we separating the contenders from the pretenders? I mean, the Angels, you probably say people thought were contenders about a month ago. Now they're 9.5 back. Now they're about 8.5 back, I should say, of Houston. So is it sort of, are they starting to come back to earth? Who knows? But like Houston's won 7 of their last 10. The Mets got 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. I know people.
Yeah, they split that 4-game series.
Yeah, they did. And I forgot they did play. The Dodgers actually won that game on Thursday. But
Mhm.
I mean, it was sort of like, do you okay? The Mets are kind of up and down too. They've won. They split their series with the Dodgers, as we said this weekend. Atlanta's won 5 in a row, so they're starting to kind of wake up a little bit as well. Um, we talked about the Cardinals. The Pirates have won a couple in a row. The Padres are looking pretty good so
Yeah,
far.
they
They've won
swept
3 in a row.
Milwaukee over the
Milwaukee,
weekend.
yeah, no
Yeah.
one really saw that. So
Mhm.
it's definitely one of those things where are we starting to sort of see like the contenders and the pretenders? I think that's sort of like for me, I think that's kind of like sort of like the thing. Are we starting to see, the contenders and the pretenders separating themselves?
You're starting to see that somewhat. We talked about the San Diego Padres just a second ago. Musgrave almost had a no hitter on Friday.
Yes, he
I
did.
started to watch a little bit of that after the Sox game, and of course the no hitter did not come about. But the San Diego Padres, no one's talking about. I know all the hype that was brought in on that club last year. Actually, they were challenging the Dodgers, but injuries started to hit them last year, and they were losing to the bad teams, and that kept them out of the playoffs this year. Without Fernando Tatis, they're a much better team. Imagine if and when Fernando Tatis Jr. comes back. I think that's going to be a much dangerous team. Now the San Francisco Giants, as we expected, they weren't going to have a surprising season like they were a year ago. Carlos Rodon, the former White Sox pitcher, had a nice start to the season, but he's been knocked around a little bit, and so Gabe Kapler, he's going to have some work to do to defend the NL Manager of the Year. And Colorado, they're falling on hard times. Arizona, they're mediocre at best. We didn't expect to take them seriously. So the Dodgers, they're still a good ball club, but San Diego, if they can keep their head on straight, they're coming. They're coming.
Yeah, winning 3 out of 4 against Milwaukee, definitely should help them kind of keep pace with the Dodgers, especially since they split their series with the Mets this week. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely yeah. So I think the West is definitely going to come down to the last couple of weeks, like it always has been the last couple of years. I'm not saying the Dodgers aren't going to run away with it, as we've seen. If
Mhm.
the Padres can stay healthy, I think that's going to be the key as well. Can the Giants kind of get it going? They haven't really been able to get into a rhythm just when you thought that they would. They kind of have a setback. So it's going to be one of the interesting how these matches, because some of these matches, as we get into in a second, like I said before, I mean, we're not we're into June where you're wondering like, okay, are we seeing, like I said, I keep emphasizing it, are we seeing like the contenders and the pretenders sort of separating themselves? And look at what the Yankees are doing. I mean, they've won 6 in a row, and they still have issues with their pitching, but it's been their hitting has kind of been sort of, although I will say Garrett Cole did have a perfect game going to the 7th inning in that Friday game against the Angels,
Mhm.
so that sort of helped in the pitching aspect of it. And look, Aaron Judge's been hitting the ball off, so
Mhm.
they're kind of like right there, sort of in that realm, and they're kind of separating themselves from the rest of the AL East right now. Will that still be the case in about a month? We'll have to wait and see. Now the
Yeah, don't forget
Twins,
about Talion and Nestor
yeah.
Cortez as well in that starting rotation for the Yankees, holding it down.
Hmm.
Now going,
Yes. You just want to finish my point. Finish the
yeah, go ahead.
point here. The Twins, they're still 4.5 up on the Guardians and 5 up on the White Sox. So can they kind of, are they starting to kind of get back to it a little bit? Are the Astros starting to run away from the AL West? Who knows? But like I said, it's just, like I said, we'll have to maybe give us a few weeks and then we'll see what really does happen. But things are starting to kind of align right now.
And speaking of Cleveland, as we go back to the American League, they took 2 out of 3 from Baltimore this weekend. I had a chance to peep in on some of those games during that series. As we said before, Lakeena, especially early in the season, Baltimore, they're not a playoff team, but they're not as an easy victory as they were the last couple years. So they had some young talent that started to show signs of them trying to grow up a bit on the field as they learn on the
Hmm.
on the job, and also too, uh, the Boston Red Sox, they did what they had to do. They swept the Oakland A's over the weekend. There was more Boston fans in that stadium than Oakland fans, so that tells you what the state of that franchise for Oakland is, and it's really sad. We talked about this before. We don't have to rehash old news, but Boston is starting to turn it around somewhat as well. That's going to be as we said before, coming into the season, Lakeena, it's going to be a tight AL East race. The Yankees are sustaining their hot start from early in the year. Tampa Bay, they lost 2 or 3 to the Chicago White Sox, but they're still going to be in the mix. Toronto, even though they lost 2 or 3 at home to Minnesota over the weekend, they're still going to be in the mix. And with this extra wild card now,
Mhm.
will all those wild card spots come out of the East? Who knows? But it's going to be a hell of a battle.
Yeah, right now, again, I know it's a little early, but all three of them hold those wild card spots right now. So both the
Mhm.
Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Red Sox. So will that still be the case? I mean, you got the Angels and the Guardians right behind. You got the Sox right behind them, and also even Texas. So there's still like a lot of baseball left to be played. And same thing in the National League. I mean, you got the Padres and the Giants are holding the 2 of the 3 with the Cardinals in between, and then you've got the Braves and the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Now, will that be the case when we talk about this again in about a month? Probably not. There might be definitely going to be
Mhm.
some movement. So again, we'll see who takes advantage of the extra wild card spot.
Yeah, so as baseball won in parity, here you go, and the more teams are in the wild card positions, the more you have the fans interested in those teams in those markets, keeping their interest intact. And so the attendance, especially now we get into the month of June, the attendance is going to go up in a lot of these places, and the interest of these teams will go up as well. So, well, baseball, once they usually get the majority of the time, we'll see what happens there. You listen to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we wrap up our number one. Lakeena, let's go through the schedule for this upcoming week for these series around Major League Baseball. We'll start off with the schedule for tonight. We have Arizona and Cincinnati at 5:40 p.m. Central Standard Time. Arizona's 3 games under 500. Cincinnati, they stink. That's all you need to know about them. The Texas Rangers, there are 3 games under 500. They'll travel to Cleveland to face the second place Guardians in the AL Central. That's at 6:10 p.m. Seattle at Houston at 7:10 p.m. The Houston Astros, we told you they may take a small step back, but they're leading the AL West. Seattle has been disappointing so far this year. They're 24-30. The Blue Jays will travel to Kansas City to face the Royals at 7:10 p.m. That's an ESPN Plus game at 8:38. What's up with these rare
I
times?
know, weird.
I don't get it.
First pitch
But
times
it's
is kind of crazy. Yeah.
but it's the Boston Red Sox will travel to Los Angeles to take on the Anaheim Angels. And also at 8:40, the New York Mets will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll play the San Diego Padres. I'm really looking forward to that game.
That should be a lot of
Both the late games I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, those should be really good series too. Then the Yankees, I mean the Mets and the Padres, I should say that should be a fun series. Could be as the Mets continue their West Coast road trip, so should be a fun one. And then series, yes, series starting off tomorrow. You got of course the Nationals and the Marlins. Both teams are kind of in at the bottom of the AL East. You got the Cubs and the Orioles. That should be an interesting interesting series. Detroit and Pittsburgh, another interesting one. Interleague series. St. Louis and Tampa, that should be a fun one as well.
That's going to be fun.
That's going to be a whole lot of fun. Then you got Oakland and Atlanta. Atlanta's starting to kind of get into a groove. We'll see if they can keep it up.
They're finally above 500.
Yeah, Acuna has been playing very well since coming back from that injury. So we'll see if he can keep that up. The Yankees and the Twins at 6:40. That's the first pitch.
Go Yankees!
Yeah, right. They get, of course, the Dodgers and the White Sox. Of course, that's the first game of that the first game of that TBS weekly game they're going to have starting this week. So at 7:10. So if you want to get a national perspective, you guys can check that's out as well. Philadelphia and Milwaukee. Phillies won 3 in a row, so switching managers. We'll see. Milwaukee. We'll see what happens. And Milwaukee's trying to bounce back after losing 3 out of 4 over the weekend. Toronto and Kansas City. Continue their series. So does the Houston and Seattle as well. Then you've got, of course, the Red Sox and the Angels that start to continue their series. Mets as well as Mets and Padres and Rockies and the Rockies and the Giants start their series.
Yeah, so there's some big matchups coming up for you this week around Major League Baseball. Lakeena, I just want to focus in on the San Francisco Giants. Looking at their schedule this morning before we started broadcasting, they took care of Colorado the first time. Let's see if they can do it, because you know why? You know who they host over the weekend? The LA Dodgers.
Okay. So
And that's
should...
going to be the first time these two teams have matched up since last year's divisional series, which went the full distance in 5 games. And so the Giants, they want to they got to take care of Colorado first, not look ahead to that big weekend series they host against the LA Dodgers. So we'll see what the Giants can do as they trying to make up ground in the NL West.
Yeah, it's sort of one of those things where you gotta like, okay, maybe this could be the thing that wakes the Giants up that series. But again, they gotta take care of business first. They gotta play Colorado, the first couple days this week. So they gotta take care of business there first. So hour number 1 in the books. That went by really quick, Sid. That went pretty fast.
Yes.
Hour number 2. Right, hour number 2 coming up next. We got our buddy Terrance Tomlin from It's the Bigs talking NBA and White Sox, and also too we got the NHL playoffs. Some very interesting results in both the conference finals so far. We'll talk about Rafa Nadal making another record over at the French Open. So much more, and a little bit of TV news as well. Cindy Brown, Lakeena McGee, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll be right back with hour 2 right after this.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and at Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than an hour of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You have any questions or comments, and especially for our next guest, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's continue the conversation about the NBA Finals, but first about the Chicago White Sox. Let's bring on a good friend of the show. He's one half of the tag team duo they call the Bigs right here in Chicago. He's the one, the only Mr. Terrance Tomlin. T-Squared, welcome back to the show. How are you, my man?
Very good. Thank you so much for always showing love. You know, I'm happy to come and talk some sports with you too.
No problem, no problem.
Excellent.
Where can people follow you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Tomlin Does It. That's my last name, Does It. And you can follow, I call it the mothership, at It's the Bigs.
All right, all right. Let's get down with some baseball talk first. Terrence, let's talk about the Chicago White Sox. You covered them for the Bigs. Yesterday, they finished up that 6-game road trip with back-to-back wins at Tampa Bay, being the Tampa Bay Rays 3-2 on Saturday, 6-5 yesterday. Yesterday's game was was a nail biter at the end. They almost blew that 6-0 lead, but the White Sox bullpen held it down. Liam Hendricks, for the first time in a long time, had back-to-back 1, 2, 3 ninth innings. It was great to see, but Jake Berger and Andrew Vaughn and Jose Abreu, even though his personal hitting streak ended on Saturday, all three of those guys have been swinging the bats very well over the last few weeks. Talk to us about the White Sox, about those three players that basically carrying this offense without Tim Anderson.
Well, first of all, I'm happy to have some positive White Sox news to talk about after a pretty much stretch over, like you said, the last couple of weeks. It was very good to see them, really start to swing the bats versus a very good team in the Tampa Bay Rays. One of those, that one of the teams that's part of that three-headed monster over there in the AL East. So considering the fact that the baseball season is a marathon, it was cool to see them start to, kind of lay some of those negative traits to bed, like, oh, they can't beat good teams. The offense is dead. They did both of those things over the weekend. And with, who could, what time, could be better than right before the LA Dodgers come to town and you have another opportunity to build momentum and beat another good team.
Who do you think needs to step up more, especially now that Anderson's out? We saw the guys that you mentioned. We talked. Sid and I talked about just a few minutes ago. Josh Harrison. Now that Dallas Keuchel is now gone, essentially he's been DFA. Do you think he's the next person to be DFA because he hasn't really been very productive, especially on the offensive side for the Sox?
You know what? Right now, I'm not sure if the White Sox can afford to DFA those guys, even though, like you said, they haven't really, produced at the level that the guys they're replacing or fill in for have. But the injury bug has been really, really prevalent on the South Side, and the depth has been even more important than the last couple of seasons. And I know some of those guys are on their way back. Lance Lynn is in a rehab assignment. Tim Anderson is working his way back. But Eloy is also doing his thing. But you definitely hope that guys like Josh Harrison, Danny Mendick can continue to fill in and do big things. Both those guys had pretty good games yesterday. I know Danny Mendick had a pretty, terrible play on the base paths over the weekend. But I think he's batting close to 400, in his time filling in for Tim Anderson, which I don't know if that has any correlation. If you fill in for Tim, you're going to be hitting 350 to 400. But as far as the depth of this team, Lakeena, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if guys like Josh Harrison ended up, off the squad in a couple of weeks. But right now, I just feel like they're pretty valuable.
Yeah, speaking of another player on the injury list, and no one saw this coming as of the last week or so, Yohan Moncada, he was back a couple of weeks ago. He still brings it with the glove on defense, but his offense hasn't caught up with him yet. And that's kind of been his whole resume throughout his whole White Sox career. Excuse what happened a couple of years ago with him having COVID a couple of years ago. I don't want to use the word hate because people overuse that word, so I'm not going to use it here. But my confidence level with him is shaky at best. Where's your confidence level at Yohan Moncada? Do you think it's ever going to work out with him in a White Sox uniform?
You know what? I'm still one of the ones that feel like Yohan Moncada just needs a little bit of time. Like you said, the last few years of his career have been crazy. It's been inconsistent. He hasn't spent a lot of time on the field. And then now you have a guy like Jake Berger, a young guy, who's really coming in and swinging a good bat, putting a little bit more pressure, not only on Yohan Moncada, but on the fan base, who hasn't really seen him produce at the level that, the level we were told that he could produce. But what I think he deserves is a little bit more time to get his feet back under him. I feel like when he hits a groove, he's one of the more special offensively talented guys, not just on this roster, but in the American League. And I feel like he's proven himself to be a very reliable glove at third base. You know, when they put him over there at third, I was a little skeptical about if he, would be able to adjust. And I totally love the way he's come in and showed that he could be a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. Offensively, do I wish he had some of the power that Jake Berger has? Absolutely. But more than that, I wish he played. I want him to be on the field consistently. And I'm willing to give him a little bit more time before I start to, throwing the towel on a guy like Yohan Moncada, even though I know the fan base is thirsty for the White Sox to play at at a high level, at a World Series caliber level. So you try anything when things are working out, but it is a such thing called going too far, and pushing the eject button on a guy like Yohan Moncada. I think that would be over the line right now.
Michael Kopech's been kind of like up and down, and he has to start tomorrow against to start off that series for the Dodgers. Do you think he can be that kind of like that extra starter that the White Sox desperately needs?
I do. I'm very high on Michael Kopech. I feel like he's one of the cats that when he is in full bloom is a number 2 or number 3 starter in your rotation. Another cat who I just feel like needs a little bit more time to build that consistency and I know that he just had another kid, so he was away for not because of an injury. So that's a good thing. So I just feel like he has the stuff to be a really good pitcher in this rotation. I'm very excited for his future for sure.
Terrance Tomlin, one half of It's the Bigs, is joining us right here on Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Terrance, here's another big topic that White Sox fans on White Sox Twitter. Of course, I had to check in on them every day. Sometimes they bring in smart information. Other times they want to drive you crazy. But one of the topics on White Sox Twitter is manager Tony La Russa. I try to say things from a logical perspective, not get emotional right away, especially when it comes to him. But I'm kind of want to bash my fist through this table right now because I part of it is due to injuries, but he doesn't have a consistent lineup every day. I understand you have to play certain guys like Leary Garcia and Gavin Sheets to a lesser extent. You want to get those bench guys some playing time to keep those to keep them fresh throughout the year. But Leary Garcia early in the year, bad number 3, that didn't make any sense. Now, Andrew Vaughn, not playing him every day, that doesn't make any sense either. His bat has been hot as over the last couple of weeks. Talk to us about TLR and what I'll let you explain about Tony La Russa from your perspective. I'm trying to not get in trouble by saying the wrong thing. Go ahead.
You know what? When you're a manager of a team with this much talent, criticism is part of the game, and I feel like he totally deserves it for at least for the one of the reasons you just talked about, the inconsistency and the inconsistency in a consistent lineup on a daily basis is definitely left me scratching my head sometimes. Yasmani Grandal leading off was another one, but you know what? I kind of let the players kind of dictate what the temperature is on Tony La Russa. And every time I get a chance to talk to a player, I just really leave feeling like Tony La Russa really has the respect of the guys in the locker room. I don't think that he's in danger of losing it, like some of Sox Twitter has mentioned over the past couple of weeks. I totally feel like his confidence and kind of his ability not to panic in situations like the White Sox have been in goes a long way in that clubhouse, because I feel like everybody in that clubhouse feels they're just a winning streak away from being where they feel like they should. So I feel like some of the criticism from Tony La Russa is fair, but when you start to talk about, oh, he needs to get fired or his days as the White Sox manager are numbered, I totally think that we need to, relax and kind of look at it from a different angle. And that's from the player's perspective. And although Tony, when he got hired, I feel like this was a cat that, we talked about him being out of touch with where the game was today 10 years ago. So to come in and expect that to be any different this time around. I never really expected that. It was always going to be on the players to adjust and for the players to find things that they had in common with Tony La Russa. And I feel like the number one thing they have in common is their desire to win. And that alone, I feel like keeps Tony La Russa's guys with him. And I wouldn't be, I totally feel like it's still early and the White Sox can still have a pretty good season. And the conversation around Tony La Russa can be kind of different than what it is right now. And we'll kind of charge this to getting out the gate kind of slow. But I'm totally expecting these guys to turn around and when they're winning, Tony La Russa is not a huge topic like he is when they're losing.
Yeah, that's been the case. It feels like the last couple of seasons. Going into the rest of the AL Central, you got Minnesota, now you got Cleveland. Now they're starting to kind of get things going. Can the White Sox get it together? I mean, that's the one thing that's kind of helped the Sox is that the Central isn't very good. But can they get to the consistency to catch both these teams, I should say?
Coming into the season, I was telling my partner Gene that anybody who thinks that the AL Central was going to make it easy for the White Sox this time around didn't watch the second half of the season last year, where the White Sox were taking losses to the Guardians and the Tigers. Those, they brought in players over the offseason like our boy Omag over there in Detroit, Carlos Correa in Cleveland, that down the line are definitely going to make a difference when you talk about jockeying for position in the AL Central. I'm interested to see what these teams do at the trade deadline and what their rosters look like after that point, because I feel like that may, help catapult the White Sox into the front of this division. Say if the Guardians trade Carlos Correa, or if the Tigers, kind of fizz out, the White Sox have a chance. But I think the rest of the AL Central is going to make the White Sox have to earn it. And I honestly wouldn't want it another way, because I feel like when they were walking through the division, we saw what it looked like when they got into the playoffs versus the Houston Astros, that they weren't really battle tested. So when I look at this roster and the rest of this division, yes, I would love them to run away with it. But I think, this is going to be a situation where all of these teams could be playing some of their best baseball at the same time. And the White Sox are actually going to have to, beat on the division. Going to have to grab some wins within the division in order to walk away with this one.
Yeah, the White Sox are currently 6-14 against the AL Central division, so that has to turn around. Before I move on to my next question, Terrance, the Minnesota Twins, even though they took 2 or 3 in Toronto over the weekend, I watched a few of their games. They have some nice starting pitching, but it's not going to scare anybody. You mentioned Carlos Correa; he's been on and off the injury list for Minnesota, and that deal that he signed, he can get out of it after this year. So for Minnesota, they have a tough stretch of games coming up as well. But for the White Sox, they got to take care of their own business. So I don't think Minnesota's going to run away with this either. Remember, they lost 4 or 5 to the Tigers last week. So the things can change in a hurry, but the White Sox just got to worry about their business. Now, the next question I want to ask you is about Jose Abreu. Many White Sox fans, even though Jose Abreu is on the last year of his current deal, many White Sox fans, especially at the beginning of the season, wanted him out of the lineup or wanted him gone. But he's been heating up over the last 3 weeks. Talk to us about Jose Abreu. You definitely cannot count this man out.
No, that was nonsense. Jose Abreu was going to get it together eventually. He's one of those guys where even if the slump lasts a little bit longer than you expected it, he's going to snap out of it eventually and turn into the RBI producing monster that we know him to be. Although I'm interested to see where his career goes after this season. If he turns into more of a consistent DH, even as opposed to an everyday first baseman, there may be an opportunity, but the White, like you said, we'll see how this season ends. I feel like his future depends a lot on how the White Sox, if they succeed and how much they succeed by the end of this year. So we'll see if the White Sox are looking in another direction or if maybe Jose Abreu can milk another contract from these guys.
We see. Should be interesting though, especially in the negotiations. That should be a interesting one too. Him and Rick Hahn. But let's go to the NBA Finals for a second, Terrance. And look, the series is now tied as we expected. Now they go to Boston. What do you think are going to be the keys? We talked about it earlier, Sid and I, about is it going to be kind of like the veteran guys? Is it going to be kind of the role players? Is it going to be the younger guys? Who do you think needs to step up so that whoever team gets the advantage in this series?
From a Boston's perspective, and I'll say that I'll be very surprised if Boston pulls this out and is hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy when this is all said and done. But in order for them to have a chance, we got to see more from Jason Tatum. You know, we definitely have to see more from their best player. And if he's not playing at the level, if anywhere close to the level that we know he can play, Boston has no chance. I know they pulled out that win in game one without him doing much, but you see, it's going to be very tough for them to do that again when you're playing a team like the Golden State Warriors, who's clicking on all cylinders with that crazy core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. We saw last night with the return of Gary Payton Jr., that they have the others as Shaq, I love how Shaq calls the rest of the team the others. They have, they can cause Boston a lot of problems when they start to, dig into their bench with guys like Jordan Poole, Gary Payton Jr., Andrew Wiggins, and they have dominated the boards really throughout the entire playoffs. So, so far. So I'm really looking forward to seeing though, if Jason Tatum can get it together. I don't know if it's inexperience, if it's nerves, if it's the defensive scheme. I honestly feel like it may be a mix of all of those, but I know he has to get it together, especially if he's spending all the time that he's not playing talking about how he's texting Kobe and how he's sitting or practicing in Kobe's old gear. I just really want to see more from him in this NBA Finals before it's all said and done, because when he does play well, these are two, I feel, very evenly matched teams, and I feel like because of that, it comes down to experience, which is why I lean over to the Golden State Warriors. But at some point, somebody has to slay the dragon. If you go through a Golden State Warriors team to get your championship, then I feel like that will put guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on a whole nother level that I honestly didn't expect them to be this early in their careers, man. So I really tip my cap to those young players, but I feel like experience and that veteran aspect of knowing how to win this late in the year when it comes to, playing this late in June and NBA Finals, I just can't see myself not picking the Warriors to go ahead and win number 4.
Yeah, speaking of the Warriors, Terrance, Draymond Green, we all know that he has an edge to him. He likes to mix it up with his opponents. He already had one technical foul last night early in the game, but him and Jaylen Brown got into in that tussle toward the end of that first half. The referees reviewed it and decided not to give either one of them technical fouls. So do you think that that Draymond Green should have been kicked out last night? And talk to us about his impact on the team.
No, you know what? I don't think he should have been kicked out last night. I'm always going to be in favor of letting them get a little testy. I feel like it's good for that competitive nature of the finals. Both these teams want it, but when it comes down to Draymond Green and what he brings to it, are we surprised that he had a moment where where he was jeopardizing his availability at the most important part of the season? I feel like his ability to walk that line is my favorite thing about him. He reminds me of AJ Przinsky. He's that guy that you love to have on your team, but you hate to play against because at some point, even when you don't know, he's going to end up inside your head, making you do some things that maybe you shouldn't have done. But on top of that, he's an elite defender, impacts the game in ways that I feel like we don't talk about enough. I feel like one day we're going to be talking about Draymond Green as a Hall of Famer, and I feel like he deserves it, because I don't know if this Golden State Warriors core works, especially at this point in their careers, without a guy like Draymond, who just is willing to do whatever. So I love Draymond Green. I love everything he brings to the game. I love how he talks in between games. And I'm looking forward to him, especially after his career, when he gets into the broadcasting side of it. It's going to be a pleasure listening to him because we know he's following in that mode like a KG of having no filter. So I've loved watching him play. I'm happy that he's been able to keep these guys at that level because I'll tell you the truth. When Kevin Durant left, I thought it was over for these guys. I didn't know if they could ever get back to this point, especially with Draymond saying stuff like, "Oh, KD was tweaking. He was asleep. We better without KD. We still gonna win." I was looking at Draymond like, "Hey, be quiet. Make sure don't nobody hear you say that." But you really got to salute those guys and the work that they put in to get back to this level. Man, it's just really kind of amazing what that core has been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and absolutely. Also, too, wants to give Draymond a shout out because he passed Larry Bird and Kobe for number 10 in all time in assists in the finals. So he actually said this on Twitter about 45 minutes ago. He said, "Not half bad for a guy who can't pass." So there you go. Let's stay in the West for a second and kind of go outside the finals, Terrance. Quinn Snyder, who I think some would probably be a little bit shocked, or maybe they're not, depending on who you ask. He's resigned from head coach of the Jazz. They went to the playoffs the last 6 seasons, but never went to the conference finals. So. And some people are already saying, we know the rumors about Rudy Gobert and now the Donovan Mitchell rumors. Don't start Bulls fans, please. Don't do that. What do you think about the situation over in Utah? You know how Bulls fans are, Terrance. You know it.
You know what? I can't front. Right before we hopped on, I was thinking about the possibility of what it would take to get Rudy Gobert over to the Chicago Bulls because he just feels a need. First and foremost, Rudy Gobert down there defensively, I think would make a huge difference for the Chicago Bulls. Now, as far as the Utah Jazz, it's an age-old situation that we've seen year after year. How many years can you continue to run it back without really achieving anything? And then on top of that, how many times can you run it back when your two best players really don't like each other? And I'm talking about Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell have been kind of in a cold war since really that situation where Rudy Gobert was the first to get COVID and he touched all the mics. That was the first situation where we saw them vocally kind of come out against each other. And we haven't really seen it reeled back in since. So the way they got beat by the Mavericks this year really kind of put the writing on the wall as far as if this team could go any further. And I totally don't think the answer is yes. The Jazz are going to be the team this summer that everybody feels they can pick from. Almost like a expansion draft kind of situation. Everybody in the league is going to be looking at that roster like, I wonder how he'll look in my jersey. So it's only right that a team like the Chicago Bulls to be looking at a guy like Rudy Gobert, who, although I feel like in the West, I'm not a huge Rudy Gobert fan, but bring him over to the East, I feel like, it's a totally different situation, especially with a roster like the Chicago Bulls, who already has a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who I feel like will help bring Zach LaVine back into the fold and make him feel more comfortable, even though everybody I talk to that's connected to Zach LaVine tells me that he really loves being in Chicago and that Chicago is his first choice. You put a guy like Rudy Gobert in that starting five, I think you're talking about a really dangerous team.
Last moment or two with Terrance Tomlin, one half of It's the Bigs right here on Second City Sports, live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Terrance, last time we brought you on, it was at the All-Star break. You said that the Los Angeles Lakers would not make the playoffs. That prediction came true, but then now they have a new head coach in Darvin Ham, former NBA player. He was assistant in Detroit and Milwaukee and a couple other stops throughout his career. Of course, they had to run it through LeBron James, I'm sure, in his team. What do you expect from the Lakers this summer? Do you think Russell Westbrook and or Anthony Davis gets traded?
Whew, you know what? What about LeBron James? Do you think LeBron James is going to get traded? I feel you could go a little bit
He'll
further.
retire before that happens.
You know what? I don't know if the Lakers are in position to really matter for the next couple of seasons if they don't trade Anthony Davis, if they don't trade Russell Westbrook. I feel like those things absolutely have to happen. They should have a couple of those moves maybe should have happened already. And honestly, I'm totally I'm confused with the Lakers. I don't know how they get better. I don't know how they turn into a playoff team out there in the West right now when they've basically wrapped all of their hopes and dreams around LeBron James and his ability to also recruit, bring in players that he'll play well with. I feel like he's in an interesting point in his career where a lot of players feel like, hey, why do I got to go team with LeBron anymore when I can the team I'm on right now, we can run through the Lakers, or LeBron's not a factor if he's over there in LA. So I feel like they're going to have to get really crafty, really, they're going to have to be the Lakers, they're going to have to be the Lakers for real and really kind of do something, maybe what if they can find a way to get Damian Lillard, if I'm the Lakers, I'm thinking about one of those moves. And not necessarily because if you trade Anthony Davis, what's the return going to be? Are you just trying to stack up draft picks? Is anybody willing to give up the house for Anthony Davis anymore, given the fact that he hasn't been able to shake his injury problems? And then on top of that, do you feel like our boy, excuse me, I'm forgetting his first name, but Ham, and I feel like I'm bogus for forgetting his first name. I remember
Darvin Ham.
I remember the dunk contest all those years ago between him and Kobe.
Yeah.
Is he really the coach that's going to bring in top players that players around the league are saying, I want to play for? Is it going to be a Udoka situation like they had in Boston where he's the right guy for the job? I feel like it's just a lot of question marks for the Lakers right now.
Absolutely. It should be interesting to see what they do. Last question for me, Terrance. Do you think Zach LaVine stays in Chicago? We've heard all the rumors of there are at least about a half dozen teams that are going to be vying for his service. So what do you think what's going to happen with Zach this offseason?
You know what? I feel like the biggest issue in Zach's career, at least from his mouth, has been winning. And now that he's finally done that on the Chicago Bulls, I don't see why he would want to leave and go to another situation where he has to be the guy for a team that doesn't have enough to win. Yeah, I feel like leaving right now would be a step back in his career. Even if you're talking about him going to be a third option in Los Angeles, I don't know if that's better than being a number one or number two option in Chicago. So I totally feel like, first of all, he can get the most money from the Bulls, and that matters. Second of all, I think this is home for him right now. I think the Bulls are his team. I think that he has the fan base. The fans love him. And I feel like I still think that Zach is going to get better over the next couple of seasons in his career. I feel like he's another guy that I want to stay healthy. You look at the Bulls roster, there's a few players I want to stay healthy. But Zach is right there. If he stays healthy, you're talking about a 25 to 28 points per game score on a team that desperately needs a player like that. So the fit is there. I feel like he likes his teammates. The beef that we've kind of heard about over the offseason between him and DeMar, I feel like is BS. I don't believe that at all. Those guys have a really good connection. And as far as Zach is concerned, DeMar is the kind of guy you want to play with. Especially, if Zach is going to be a number two or number three option. DeMar is one of those guys who will happily take the mantle of being the guy to take the last shot. But Zach is more than capable. And I totally think that when the dust settles and we stop with all the rumors and whatever Clutch is planting in social media to be the conversation of the day, when all that's done, I think Zach is going to be a Bull.
All right, that was Terrance Tomlin, one half of It's the Bigs. You can follow him on social media at Tomlin Does It. Once again, at Tomlin Does It. And you can follow the Bigs as a whole on Twitter at It's the Bigs. Terrance, as always, man, we appreciate you coming on to the show. Tell Eugene we said what's up. And you and him always have an open door policy right here on Second City Sports. We appreciate you, my man.
Thank y'all so much, man. I truly appreciate you two showing us love for all of these years, and I wish you two nothing but the best.
I got y'all.
Yeah, back at you.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work.
All right, now y'all too.
All right.
All right, that's our buddy Terrance Tomlin from It's the Bigs. Of course, all the great work we've done with him and Eugene the last few years. We supporting each other, what we do here. So that's how we do it. And we're gonna take a break and we're gonna keep doing what we're doing because we got a lot to talk about still. We got the conference finals in the Stanley Cup. You got for the French Open recap, Rafa Nadal does it again. And also too, CJ McCollum is going on right now as we speak. Speaking of what we said about Draymond, that's what CJ's doing. We'll talk a little bit more about that and other news as well. So
and also too. Yeah, and also too, we got this is Old School TV Monday.
Oh yes,
we were and Lakeena doesn't know this, but we'll pay tribute to a television show that helped revolutionize a network. It's not what you think it is. We'll tell you about that coming up.
Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll see you in a bit.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NBA Thursday, the Bulls dropped their second straight 126-109 the loss at New Orleans. The Bulls are 42-31 with the setback. Zach LaVine led the scoring for Chicago with 39 points. Kobe White had 23. The Pelicans got 30 points from Devontae Graham, 25 from CJ McCollum, and a double-double from Jonas Valanciunas. Up next for the Bulls, they'll try and snap the skid tomorrow night when they visit Cleveland. The Blackhawks put a 2-game winning streak on the line tomorrow when they visit the Vegas Golden Knights. Chicago with a 4-3 win at Los Angeles yesterday. Alex DeBrincat had the shootout winner. Colin Delia made 43 saves through overtime in just his second start of the season. Spring training Thursday, the Angels beat the Cubs 5-4. Today, it'll be the Cubs taking on the Rockies. The Giants beat the White Sox 9-6. Today, the Sox will face the Mariners. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the all-new Monday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in 11 color along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
We have less than 20 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can go to Sports on Chicago on Facebook and Sports on Chicago on YouTube. Just type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's do that hockey. We got a lot to jam into within the next 20 minutes or so. But let's kick off with that hockey. Game 3 of the 2022 Eastern Conference Finals between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers took place yesterday at Amalie Arena. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, after trailing 2-0 in the series and in the game, the Tampa Bay Lightning's scored 3 unanswered goals, including Nikita Kucherov, Palat, and Steven Stamkos. The Tampa Bay Lightning got back in the game and got back in the series with a 3-2 victory. They now trail their best-of-7 series to the New York Rangers 2-1.
They needed that win desperately. They could not have afford going down 3-0. And I saw some of the game yesterday, I should say. And yeah, it was definitely a back and forth game. And once you thought that maybe, especially since it seemed like maybe kind of felt that the Rangers were going to take a 3-0 lead, seems like they woke up and the Lightning, I mean, and they, then Stamkos had that power play goal, not even 90 seconds into the third period. And then, Andres Palet, I can never say his name, good Lord help me. But, with almost like 45 seconds left, he scored the game winner. And, kind of like a light bulb. And that place in Tampa was rocking, to their credit, though, Lightning fans are actually pretty passionate. I'm sure there were definitely more than their share of, Rangers probably have more than their share of their fans there as well. But you kind of felt that, that electricity in that arena. So we'll see if they can, bounce back tomorrow. And, but yeah, this could definitely be a kind of a turn in the series.
Yeah, let's see what happens tomorrow night in Game 4. The New York Rangers, as we talked about before, Lakeena, their power play is actually very good, but when they don't have the man advantage, they really struggle to score. You talk about Chris Kreider and Artemi Panarin, former Blackhawk. Thank you, Stan Bowman.
Yeah, should still be a Blackhawk.
But they struggle to score at times, and they really can bring the physical pain as well. But the Tampa Bay Lightning still got that speed and they have that skill. So as we said before, it's going to be a long series. Of course, I have the Rangers winning the whole thing. This series, I believe, is going to go the full 7, and I'll be disappointed that didn't happen. But it's still going to be a long series. Tampa Bay really needed that win on home ice yesterday.
It's actually Palet's 10th career game-winning goal in the playoffs too. So that's actually pretty cool. So it was kind of destined for him, I guess, because he's done this more than a few times. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Because I think, like I said, I think I have the Rangers in 7. So we'll see if they can kind of we'll see what happens. But tomorrow, but tonight we may have our first team going to the Stanley Cup final. The Avs are now up 3-0. I don't know what's going on with it seems like where is everybody for the Oilers? Where I know Kane's it looks like he's probably going to be suspended because he's did the
he had the dumb hit on Kadri. Saturday.
Poor Kadri's getting picked on a lot these playoffs. I don't know why, but
I know St. Louis now. What happened on Saturday? I don't know what's going on. But as far as the game is concerned, Connor McDavid showed up. He scored the first goal of the game. But the Edmonton Oilers couldn't sustain that energy. The Kucherson from Colorado actually scored 2 goals in that comeback. It basically is about talent and experience for Colorado in the youth and inexperience at times of Edmonton. Edmonton has been in the playoffs before, but they haven't had this much experience. It's a learning lesson, regardless if they get swept tonight or not. It's a learning experience for them. I think it's going to help them moving forward. But Colorado, now they've been knocking at the door these last couple of years, and they could definitely kick it in tonight, as you mentioned, with the win and the sweep of these in the Western Conference Finals on their way to the big show.
Yeah, that was their 7th comeback win of the playoffs this season. So that's second most in franchise history behind the last time they won the cup in '96. So that when they had 8. So again, this sort of like, I guess, sort of, sort of like a rhythm here. But yeah, I mean, Edmonton needs to get it together. They really do. And hopefully they can kind of at least try to make a put in an effort. Yeah, they did score, that opener, McDavid did, but it was really nothing more. I mean, and also, everything else. So I don't know what can Edmonton do. I mean, if you're the Avs, you try to pounce on them early and, don't look back, because I'm sure they're going to want to end this series tonight. So, but we'll see what they do. But yeah, I mean, McDavid needs to step up. It's, Draisaitl needs to step up as well. He's been a no-show the last couple of games. So I don't know. I think
Draisaitl and their goalie Mike Smith. Could we have a quote-unquote legendary performance out of him tonight for them to save their season?
Yeah. Well, he needs help from he needs them to score goals for him. He had 39 saves. He had 39 saves, but it wasn't enough. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it looks like maybe Avs might take it tonight. I don't know, but again, yeah, we'll see what happens. You can check that game out on TNT. TNT tonight. Note the network's gonna be on TNT tonight, and you get to see Paul Bissonnet's weird fro
Yeah.
half, whatever the heck that is with the mustache. That's not a good look for him. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. But
Right. I enjoy his analysis, but
Yeah.
you know, like Ray, our girl Ray from co-host of House
love
of
his
Hockey
podcast
but
too.
yeah. So you guys check that out. So the Avalanche and Oilers tonight at 7:00, Game 4 from Edmonton. That's on TNT here in the States at 7:00. Of course, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's Tuesday. That's tomorrow. That's at 7:00 on ESPN and ESPN Plus. And of course, Game 5 between Tampa Bay and the New York Rangers will be back in MSG. That's on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Of course, if necessary, Game 5 of the Edmonton Colorado series will take place on Wednesday. So that's your schedule for the Stanley Cup playoffs as we wind down the home stretch of the conference finals.
Should be fun. Hopefully the Oilers can extend the series. I don't know, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. I don't know if they can, but again, we'll see. But and also too, we'll see if the Lightning can tie it up, and will the Rangers take back control. So it should be fun nonetheless. Now going to the courts of tennis. Real quick, shout out to the two new French Open champions. Well, not new because she actually has this is actually her second straight title. Iga Swiatek, who has been playing if you've been following tennis, I know Sid doesn't really follow tennis that much, but just go with it, Sid. She's been playing lights out. She's been 18-0 since. Oh, stop that. She's now the youngest. She's only 21. She now has 2 French Open titles. She's the youngest 2-time champion since Maria Sharapova when she won her second, all the way back in 2006. She's 18-0 since becoming world number 1. And she has 6 titles since, including the French Open title, which she won last year. That's the most since Serena when she did it back in 2014 when she won 7. She beats Coco Gauff in straight sets. I'm thinking that the nerves kind of got to Coco a little bit. And she admitted in the presser too in the interview she did. So she'll be back. Remember, she just turned 18, folks. I mean, give her a break. This is her first Grand Slam final. I know she also lost in the doubles final too, but I think she's got the taste of it. I think she needs to work on some things, get that forehand going, and control the nerves. I think she'll be fine. She'll be back. I'm not worried about her. Swiatek is like one of the top. She's the number 1 player in the world on the women's side right now for a reason. So I'm not too worried about her.
I know my girl Madison Keys lost in that tournament. I know she's been out of the spotlight for a while as well. I know both of them were in the spotlight a few years ago as the next future stars of tennis. But like you mentioned, Coco Gauff has rebounded a bit. But Madison Keys has been struggling. It's
been mostly injuries though on her part, and I think she made this around 16, but lost. We'll see what happens in Wimbledon. Wimbledon in a few weeks. I know this is kind of when Coco kind of bursts onto the scene, so we'll see if she can kind of work from this experience at the French and kind of go into it with Wimbledon. Now on the men's side, he did again. Rafa Nadal. One more. I don't think there's more words you can say about Rafa at this point. It's his now 22nd overall Grand Slam title. Also now his 14th French Open. That's the most in the Open era. It's actually won it almost to the day when he won his first back in 2005. Also he won in 2011, breaking Bjorn Borg's record, who he won 7. There's really nothing more you can say about that. He now joins he comes as the fifth guy to win it. Both the French and Aussie in the same year in the Open era back in 68. Go to, of course, Djokovic, who won last year, won both last year, almost had the career Grand Slam. He has Casper Ruud, of course, before he was the first Norwegian to get in. He'll be fine too. Actually, he's actually training his uncle Tony's Rafa's uncle Tony's tennis academy. So that's why and also Swiatek does too. But he went to the French Open a few times when he was younger. Now he made it to he actually has a couple of tourney wins this year, so he'll be back as well. So, but Rafa's already said that he may not play Wimbledon because of the short turnaround. He only had 3 weeks before Wimbledon, so he may not go for that calendar slam. Although you never know. But yeah, Rafa is now 2 ahead of both Djokovic and Federer at this point. So
Yeah, speaking of Nadal, Lakeena, with all the accomplishments you just read off, can you call him the Tom Brady of tennis, of men's tennis?
yeah, he's definitely. I think he probably. Some people say he's the GOAT because the fact that he's been able to do this with he had cracked ribs, he's had knee issues and foot issues. The fact that he's surprised he said himself that he's actually surprised that he still can play at this high of a level at his age. He's 36, but yet all the wear and tear he's had in his body. So
Yeah. Can you say he's better than John McEnroe, Jimmy Connors, Pete Sampras, Agassi?
Oh, well, look, I think they're all kind of like fighting him and Djokovic and Federer as kind of like the all-time greats. He has it. He is ahead right now. Like I said, he's now 2 ahead of both of them at this point. He's in with 25, so who knows? But yeah, he's gonna, he's withdrawing for Wimbledon, so he's not gonna be able to. We're not gonna have that calendar slam because, of course, he has to think about his injuries and such. But just amazing what he's still accomplishing. It's just nothing short of incredible.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, live in 11 color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, before we get to our old school TV Monday salute, do you have any more nuggets? Because I have an NFL story that we have to discuss.
Well, we have to talk about real quick about CJ McCollum.
He
actually just made his debut on ESPN. It's a multimedia kind of thing where he's going to be doing the ESPN like wraparound. If he's going to be appearing on Get Up, First Take, Sports Center, while he's still playing as well, of course. And you're a very smart guy. I mean, this is very kind of similar to what what the Draymond Green did and such. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he does this. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy, so I'm sure he's probably going to be doing some college, coops as well. I'm sure they're going to probably get him to do that. Of course, he was at Lehigh, of course, when they upset Duke all those years ago in the first round. But this is actually a really cool kind of concept. And yeah, I think he's going to do fine. And yeah, we'll see what he does, especially in season, because he's going to be doing some stuff in season as well. He's going to be traveling. So that's going to be kind of like the kicker too. That's going to be the more interesting part.
Yeah, he's doing the same thing, but a little bit more responsibility, like Draymond Green is doing. Of course, Draymond Green is part of Colin Cowherd's podcast network of The Volume. He drops a podcast a couple of times a week. Of course, he's doing stuff with TNT, and so he's preparing. They're preparing him to eventually replace Charles Barkley once Draymond Green's career is done. So, like you said, CJ McCollum, he did a few things at All-Star Weekend a few years ago for ESPN or for Turn. I forgot which one, but he's a very smart young man. So. He's going to do just fine.
Yes, he will. So yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see what he does, especially in season. That's really going to be the thing for me. I want to see how this goes with him.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Sid.
As we always say, Lakeena, the NFL is a 12-month sport, and today they don't disappoint. This comes to our good friends at Awful Announcing. It says headline: John Lynch says that post NFC Championship game address was key to him turning down Amazon's $15 million offer. Quote, how do I sit up here and address these guys and talk about having the fortitude to fight through the pain of losing a game like this, the NFC Championship game to the now defending champion Rams, through the pain of losing a game like this and then turn around and bolt on them? When Amazon launching its exclusive Thursday Night Football broadcast this fall, this offseason saw a lot of drama about who would form that broadcast booth. Amazon eventually landed on Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. That the news came officially in late March, but there were several other figures mentioned before that on the analyst side in particular. One of those was San Francisco 49ers current GM John Lynch, who worked as a game analyst for Fox from 2008 through 2016. Andrew Marchand of the New York Post reported in February that Amazon had talks with Lynch and added that they will likely offer to triple his 49ers salary at $5 million right now, but noted that later that Lynch quickly shut that down at the talks after one dinner. Lynch then said in an early March press conference that the NFL comment that he stayed because of the opportunity that he thinks the 49ers have to compete for a title with their current roster. Lakeena, John Lynch, I thought was very good when he was doing his work with Fox many years ago, but he wants to keep his current job. I don't blame him. The 49ers are still in the mix for the Super Bowl. Which quarterback would that be, Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance? That remains to be seen. Of course, as we all know, as Bears fans, they open up here in Chicago on September 11th to kick off the 2022 season. So Now, of course, Amazon's been talking to Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch to be part of their coverage as well. John Lynch, he's not ready to give up that general manager's life yet. I know that's much more stress than doing work for a broadcast team, but John Lynch respectfully turned them down.
Yeah, well, he did respectfully, so I guess you could kind of give him that much. He is definitely a gentleman. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this core, I know, Debo Sammy, I know, with the trade talks and such, but I think they'll figure it out. I know he's not over there at mandatory mini camp right now, as it is going on all over the league. But yeah, I think he probably will end it, but he'll go back to the booth, but not right now. I think he feels like he got some unfinished business to take care of in San Francisco, especially since he left the boot to join the front office. So, and yeah, the talent is there. They're still right there in the mix for the NFC West. It is definitely going to be a very tough conference, but I think he made the right decision. I mean, the fact that Amazon offered to triple his salary, but yet he still told him no. You gotta give him a comment for that, to feel like he wants to be committed and perhaps try to win the Super Bowl in San Fran. I can't say I blame him.
Yeah, we don't blame him at all. So we'll see what the 49ers do moving forward for this upcoming season. Lakeena, let's end this show on a high note as we go to Old School TV Monday. We pay tribute to an unsung TV show that we feel like that has made an impact on not just only on American culture and Black culture, but pop culture as a whole around the country and around the world. Today, yours truly wants to salute Club MTV. Club MTV was a half-hour television show modeled after American Bandstand that aired on MTV from August 31st of 1987 to June 26th of 1992. Club MTV was part of MTV's second generation of programming as the channel was phasing out its original 5 VJs and introducing new ones. It was hosted by downtown Julie Brown at a large dance club in New York City. The show cut back and forth between teenagers dancing to a hit dance song and the video of that hit. In later shows, they would dance exclusively to freestyle music. Often there were music guests who performed their new singles, such as Paula Abdul, Expose, Jody Wiley, Debbie Harry from the group Blondie, New Kids on the Block, Vanessa Williams, Sheena Easton, Debbie Gibson, Salt and Pepper, MC Hammer, Taylor Dane, D Light, Pet Shop Boys, EU, Doing the Butt, Vanilla Ice, Samantha Fox, Soul to Soul, Black Box, Company B, El DeBarge, Donna Summer, Inner City, and more. They feature other rock groups like the Ramones, Mr. and the Dead Milkmen, and NXS. The show will go to with the rise of popularity of freestyle music. Club MTV began using the music nearly exclusively, with a few house and hip hop songs thrown in. In 1989, MTV introduced the companion show for Friday nights called Street Party that aired the complete videos of songs used on Club MTV. Though modeled after American Bandstand, the show had more sophisticated nightclub look. The women, especially many of them inspiring models, dressed in provocative club wear, skin-tight dresses, spandex pants, mini skirts, fishnet stockings, and the show became known for its sexual allure. In a special broadcast in 1999, some of his more scandalous moments were featured during that special. Notable entertainers that were used Club MTV for is started including Camille Grammer, Anastasia, Lucas Prada, Hill Harper, Jennifer Esposito, S.S. Atkins, Michelle Fitzcage, and Darren Henson. So we like to pay tribute to Club MTV, which ran the network of MTV to help that network go into heights that we know that they are today. So it was hosted by downtown Julie Brown for 6 seasons. I would say when that show went off the air, Lakeena, as I said before, my mother had cable. We had 3 TVs in our house. It was only one TV in my house that had cable, and I would try to sneak and watch MTV, which I did a few times, and I remember watching that show. That was a very good show. You know, they were watching shows like Soul Train and American Bandstand, which they model after, but it was a very good TV show. I wish that show was an hour. I believe it was on every day throughout the week, and so they couldn't go to an hour, but that was a very good TV show. Of course, downtown Julie Brown is still doing things within the entertainment industry right now. She still looks good for her advanced age, but even though we talk about Soul Train a lot, Lakeena, I know we make fun of Bandstand here and there, but in my opinion, Club MTV was the second best dance show next to Soul Train.
Well, we didn't get cable until 1990, so unfortunately I didn't get to see kind of like Club MTV at the height of it, but I did check it out.
Mhm.
I did see New Kids, I saw Mariah Carey and such. So it was
Yeah.
definitely kind of like, sort of a combination of Soul Train with a little bit of TRL and such. And
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why, and unfortunately, a show like this is probably much needed because it kind of gives teenagers sort of, especially and young people too, sort of like a thing to kind of let off some steam, be entertained. You have some of their favorite stars on there, and I think that's
Mhm.
definitely sort of kind of pave the way for that for shows like TRL and
Yeah.
shows like that and 106 in Park and
Once in
such.
Park. Yep. Especially. Yeah.
So it definitely kind of paved the way. I love downtown Julie Brown. She's still like you said, she still works in the industry over in England. I think she still hosts a very popular music viewing show over in Britain. I'm not sure what the exact title is, but I know I did a kind of reunion special recently, not too long ago, and I know she said she was doing that now. She's been doing that the last few years. But yeah, look, I mean, unfortunately, the parameters are different. You wish, something like this could probably, especially with everything going on, if they give, sort of young folks sort of like a safe haven in a lot of ways. But unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I think this was great for what it was for the
Mhm.
times that we lived in. And things were so much simpler than Sid. But yeah, I
Yes.
loved
Yes.
I loved Club MTV. It was, even my mom watched it a little bit with me, even though she didn't really know I was too crazy about some of the songs that were on there. But
Yeah.
it was, but look, it was great fun family entertainment. So
Yes, it was. And like you said, it took downtown Julie Brown to new heights. And she was a pop culture sensation. Even if you didn't have a cable, she hosted various television specials. And she was on those NBA commercials. Remember back in the day?
Yes.
The NBA action is fantastic. She was featured she was featured in a couple of them. So it took her to the mainstream. And we like to pay tribute to Club MTV. Like you said, it opened up doors for shows like TRL and 106 in Park later on in the decade going into the 2000s. So Club MTV it was a very good show. So we like to pay homage to that show.
We tip our caps and hair and everything.
As downtown Julie Brown famously said after each episode, wubba 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 wubba, goodbye and God bless.
We should wait until after the end of the show. We should
wait
until after the end.
Glad to get that in there because my brain sometimes goes crazy. So
right, yeah, absolutely. And right before we go, the College Football Hall of Fame, for next year's class, some of those names have been filtered out, and if you're one of those, some of the names on the list will make you feel old. Check this out: Marshawn Lynch is up for consideration. Luke Kuechly, James Laurinaitis, Ryan Leaf, Peter Warwick, Hello Inata. Remember that name?
That takes me back to my late high school, early college years. Peter Warwick is special.
Yeah, Julius Pepper, Simeon Rice, Anton Randall L, Eric Redd, our buddy Chico, Ron Rivera, of course, now the coach over with Washington. He's up for it as well. So yeah, so definitely some very recognizable names. And Tim Tebow and Troy Vincent as well. And Eric Weddle too, another name, D'Angelo Williams, among many others. So yeah, so you can definitely check that out on the College Football Hall of Fame. I actually had a tweet. You can go through my Twitter account. I actually said, "Oh my God, these names make me feel old." And they actually agree with me. And their Twitter account, I don't know who their social media managers, but they agree with me. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm right behind you, Lakeena.
Oh, gosh. But on that note, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app, wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you follow War Media at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, and we'd like to thank Terrance Tomlin from It's the Bigs for joining us today for discussing the NBA Finals in Chicago White Sox baseball. And make sure you catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks would say. Catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday live and in living color from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Enjoy the sports this week, everybody. You've got some great matchups. Of course, you got the NBA Finals. Return again on Wednesday. You got the conference finals. We'll see if Colorado can end it tonight. Also, you got the Women's College World Series. UCLA beat Oklahoma. I know Troy Aikman had a tough time. Well, he actually said he was playing for he was here for UCLA. So, and they actually did end up winning that game against Oklahoma 5-1. But enjoy the Women's College World Series. You got the Men's College World Series on the baseball side coming up as they get ready for Super Regionals too. So, a lot of great sports this week. Enjoy it, everybody. First hit, I'm Lakeena. If you're not going to get vaccinated, wear your mask. But also to just be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Wubba, wubba, wubba. Goodbye and God bless. Holla!